So this is just a bag that was in a free pile, so nothing special. It's not leather, it's that fake leather stuff, but it does kind of make it really easy to work with. And all I've got here is just an unpicker, and I'm just going to unpick some of the handles. So I've already cut this, that's why it's floppy like that. I'm just going to unpick it. Really easy to do, just get one thread done and then it comes apart really easy. And I'm going to do that all the way to the base down here so that I can use this bit of strapping. So you can see that when I get down past this point, it stops with the double part of it and it comes into a single. So all I'm going to do is just cut a little bit longer than what it is, because that's going to let me have an end to fold it over like that. And so I've got my bit of strapping from that side, and I'm just going to take off the other bit from this side as well. Okay, so here is some of the strap of the bag, and I got these boots, $4 from an op shop, so they were discounted from $10. And my plan is to put some of the, I don't know what they're called, but stuff that you see often on jackets and things like that, so that it goes around the boot like that. And I'm just going to use some of these to do that. So these were off eBay, and I honestly can't remember what they're called. Sorry, not a good memory. But you buy them for leather work and stuff, and you put them together and punch them in. So I'm going to start with the longer one, and I want to just have that edge folded over, just to give it a little bit nicer edge when it's sitting on the shoe like that. But once I start folding it over, I'm then getting four thickness of the fabric, which is going to start making it a little bit too thick. So I'm just going to use my unpicker to just cut through that. Oops, sorry, shook the camera a bit there. So the reason why I'm using my unpicker for that is because it's still glued down, and that just gives me a little bit of ease to pull it up like that, rather than trying to cut it with the scissors while it's glued. So again, try not to shake the camera this time. Like that. Pull that off. Still got some stitching in there. Take that off a bit. Now I'm just going to cut it just at a slight angle, and the reason why I'm cutting it at a slight angle is so that once it's folded over, it doesn't actually stick out. So just get that bit off the corner there, and slight angle on this one here, and then it can fold over and get a little bit of a nicer end where it sits on the boot. Now, normally there's leather punches that you use to put a hole in, but with this sort of fake leather stuff that just often almost falls apart in your hand, it stretches a bit too, which means that it doesn't work so well trying to put a punch through. So what I'm actually doing is, again, just using my unpicker just to cut a little bit of a hole. So you can see how that's cut that like that. And then again up here, just pushing it through a bit, cut a bit of a hole. And then same again, putting it through both sides so I know where it needs to go on the other one. And just a bit of a hole, and cutting a bit of a hole there. Now I'm going to get this, and I'm just going to put it through one at a time to make sure I get it through alright, like that, and get the other one. Now the reason why I'm putting them through here to start with is so I can use them to mark where I want them to go on the shoe. So then I can sort of hold it there to make sure that I get my two holes even. So I'm going to put it where I want it to go. And then I'm just going to use the unpicker just to mark roughly where they sit, so that I know where to put my holes. Now these boots are leather, which makes them a little bit harder to get through. So again, I'm just sort of cutting a bit of a hole there to make it so that I can get these through easily. And again, for this one, making sure not to stab my fingers as I go through. And just a bit of a hole there for that one. Now they've got a fake lining inside, and I found in previous attempts it's quite hard to sort of line up the whole of the lining and the whole of the boot to be able to get them both through. So what I'm just doing now is just sort of pinching that a bit, and I'm going to get this inside, try not to stab myself, and I'm just going to put a bit of a hole inside the lining like that, and then I'm actually just going to tear the lining a little bit so that it lets me get inside through it. So now I can actually get through to that side there. So now I'm going to take this back off of here. I'm going to start with the bottom one, work my way up, go through the hole I've made in the lining. I can find that again. Make that a little bit bigger. Luckily it's just a cheap fabric inside, so it tears pretty easily. And then get to that hole, and there we go, through nice and easily. A bit easy sometimes to just start through one piece at a time, and then through the second one. You can see it wanting to stick through there. Now, one of the things I love about these little things is that they kind of actually clip together. So that's not enough to hold them permanently, but it is enough to hold them in place just while you set up to give them a good hammer. So that's the base that goes underneath, and you aim to sit the underside in the curve in there. It's a little bit harder with the shape of the boot. Put that there, and then this bit goes on top, sits on like that. Make sure we sort of got it sitting central as best as we can do, and we give it some punches. And I found it's best not to be shy when you're doing this, because if you don't get it together well, it can just fall apart later. So give it a good hit. Alright, through our second hole. That's not cut quite as well. You can see it's giving me a little bit of trouble. So what I'm actually going to do is just get my unpicker again and just get through a couple of those threads there. There we go. Get it through that second one, and then get it through that final one there. And again, you can see it's just a little bit of trouble lining up and finding where that hole was. So again, I'm just going to my unpicker and just cut a little bit more. See it coming through there. That's enough for me to be able to get the top part on. Like that. And again, get my base that I left inside the shoe. Sit it on top. And again, a couple of good whacks. There we go. Now, want to come around like this. However, I'm again going to fold over that edge. So I'm just going to cut it a little bit longer than where I'm wanting it to sit. And sorry about the camera shake again. Just unpick that bit there. A little bit more. You find often that you might need it just a little bit more than what you'd think cut off, so that you've got that bend that goes around it. Like that. And again, going to take some angles off the side so that it sits nicely. So this is exactly what I did with the first one, and I'm just going to do it all over again. Okay, so I'm ready to do the first one of the next side, but what you find now is, because it's directly over the other ones, you've got to sort of manipulate the boot a bit to get yourself a flat side underneath, because you don't want to be sort of perched on top of the other ones trying to hammer it in. So I'm just going to try and twist that a bit like that, and then get the punch on top. And you can see it's wanting to fight where I'm trying to put it. That's alright. Good to go, I think. Give it let's see, that's pushed in quite well, and not too bad on the other side. So good to go again, and again I've just sort of pulled it over a little bit so that it's not sitting on the other one, but you can see how that's sort of slipped off. So you need to make sure that we pull this back over so it's got something to sit on. Oh, and we slipped off again. It feels a little bit better there. Let's see if we can get it this time. Oh, no, it slipped again. What kind of hold have we got? Could probably do with another hit. Pull it over. You're fighting how the boot wants to be sitting, so this helps to keep a little bit of pressure on it. That'll do. So you can see, because of this cheap fabric, how it's just tearing a bit and doesn't really hold well. Obviously it would work a lot better with leather, but really it's a costume that I'll probably only wear once, so I'm just working with what I've got and what is free or cheap. So there we go. So when it comes time to do the next one, so rather than me just going straight for the center one, I will start with this one, but what I'm going to do first is line that up so that then I know where this sits. So I'll get this all prepared first, and maybe work out which one of these is going to be best to use so that I'm not using too much of this crappy end. Probably actually be better to use this one in the middle, and make sure that that bit crappier side falls on the inside of the boot. So I'll start with it over here, and again go through the same steps again. So I've got my studs in, ready to mark where I want them to sit, and so I'm just going to put this one, I reckon I'll line that up roughly with the top seam there, and then I want this one to sit in the middle, that sort of spot. So I'll mark, just put a dot to mark it again so that I know where it goes, and we're off again. So I'm ready to mark the next side again, and I'm going to do the same thing just to try and get it a little bit even. Just sit that one on that mark where I want it to go, and then put that roughly in the centre of those two. Turn around so I can see it, because that helps. So ready to punch this side again, and same thing as the first one, needing to just twist it a little bit so that it's not sitting directly above the one on the other side. Just hold it there, get my punch, and give it a good whack. Gets a bit easier as you go up the boot, because the boot itself twists a bit easier. So this part of the strap has actually been the part that was over your shoulder, and so it's worn quite a bit, which has made it quite flaky. But because that's going to be on the inside of the leg, and also, you know, down the leg, so quite a distance from our eyes, I'm not too stressed about it. I don't think it will stand out too much once it's actually on. So one more to go and all done. And there we go, all done, both boots. I'm not sure if they're going to need a little bit more, something extra, but that might be a case of just if the right thing pops up. And probably all in all, first one took me the longest, as always does, you know, I'd already done one boot before I did the video, so I kind of knew what I was doing, but the first one took me a little bit to figure out, and then after that they probably took me about 10 minutes each.